right, we're going on to our final story. So if you have not heard, I'm pretty sure most of you probably have. Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon, both out. Both of them, right? We're going to start off with Don Lemon because it's interesting. I was on Rising not too long ago when I did say that I think CNN has been giving Don Lemon a pass. I felt like they were afraid to fire him. And it's because of numerous behaviors that he's had, right? So there was the comment that he made about Nikki Haley being or not being in her prime. There was that comment. There was the Jussie Smollett case where he actually contacted Jussie Smollett and warned him that the Chicago PD did not believe his story. I didn't think that was journalist integrity. I didn't think that was ethical journalism, although I guess we don't even call him a journalist or whatever. Either way, that was wrong. He's had sexual assault allegations against him before as well. There's just been a lot with Don Lemon, but his behavior has been a problem, apparently, at CNN. And I think Don, over the years, as he became bigger, I think that he became a little bit too comfortable. I think Don got a little too cozy and thought that he was invincible when it came to being held accountable. That is no longer the case. Don is out. Case Study QB was able to capture part of that announcement. So let's dive in.
I want to share with you some important news right here at our own network. CNN's Oliver Darcy is back with us. Oliver, what do you know?
Some shocking news. Again, John, in the world of cable news, Don Lemon and CNN have parted ways. This is according to a memo that was sent out to CNN employees just moments ago. I'll read to you part of it, John. Actually, most of it. It says, CNN and Don have parted ways. Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, and we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. We wish him well, and we will be cheering him on in his future endeavors. And then it goes on to say that the network is committed to the morning show CNN This Morning, which of course is hosted or was hosted by Don Lemon as well as Caitlin Collins and Poppy Harlow. Now, this statement is coming from CNN CEO Chris Licht. It does not detail what happened, what led to Don's departure, but Don Lemon is no longer with CNN, according to this memo that just went out to CNN employees, John.
That was going to be my follow-up, as it was in the Tucker Carlson case when we announced that he is leaving Fox, or he and Fox have parted ways. At the top of the show was the why, but it's clear from that we don't have any more information on that, correct?
Not at the moment, John, but rest assured, once I get out of here, I will be making some calls.
Oliver Darcy, appreciate the hustle very much on this breaking news story. And again, I don't know the details happening while I'm sitting in the chair here, but I work here. I love this place. I certainly wish Don the best. He's always been good to me as a colleague.
You know, he had to say that, right? I work here. I love this place, because he's like, look, I don't know what happened with Don, but I don't want to lose my gig. Okay. I am very happy here, guys, at CNN, but had to be an awkward moment for him to make that announcement on CNN. And he didn't even know that happened. And you know, thoughts just go through your head, and you start to wonder if you're next, right? So of course he had to let people know, I love it here. Now, CNN did issue a statement. Oh, hold on. Where's the Don Lemon statement? Uh-oh. Don Lemon actually issued a statement. Let me see if I can find it. No? I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what happened to... Let me just go here and pull it up. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this is how I found out about it. Don Lemon issued this statement. I was informed this morning by my agent that I have been terminated by CNN. I am stunned. After 17 years at CNN, I would have thought that someone in management would have had the decency to tell me directly. At no time was I ever given an indication that I would not be able to continue to do the work I have loved at the network. It is clear that there are some larger issues at play. With that said, I want to thank my colleagues and the many teams I have worked with for an incredible run. They are the most talented journalists in the business, and I wish them all the best. I don't know if I would call them journalists. Not sure I would call them that. Okay. Commentators, not journalists. And it was really weird to me that he posted this screenshot, because if he could have just typed this out with the blue check, because you get you actually get more characters with the blue check. So he could have just typed that out with the Twitter blue. But yeah, it was a little dramatic for me, right? So that was actually how I found out. I saw that tweet in my feed. So that is Don Lemon's version of events. CNN actually responded to that tweet that Don Lemon had. And I want to show you what they had to say, because it's a little bit different. Their version of events, Don Lemon's statement about this morning events is inaccurate. He was offered an opportunity to meet with management, but instead released a statement on Twitter. So they seem to disagree. Now, I do want to add something in reference to him being shocked by this. I don't think he should have been shocked. A while back, when he was removed from the primetime spot and they decided to put him a part of the morning show, I told people back then, I was like, oh, so he got demoted. You can get demoted in different ways. You can be demoted and not have a pay cut, but your position is less than it was before, or you can get demoted by having a pay cut. Don Lemon proceeded to tell people that he was not demoted. This was just a change of events. They had new management. They wanted to try new things. But for those of us that have worked in broadcast media, I've interned in broadcast media. My background is broadcast journalism from undergrad. Any of us can tell you, anytime you are removed from a primetime spot and you are positioned in a morning show, that's considered a demotion when it comes to broadcast journalism. Why? The primetime show receives more views. It usually has higher ratings. CNN's ratings were down. We were talking about this right after Biden won. Their ratings did tank, right? So that being said, when you were relocated to the morning show, that is not a show that is watched by as many people. So I still say that was a demotion. So I don't know why he was surprised so much to speak, but he was. But that announcement came after this next announcement. Before Don Lemon decided to speak out, I saw this announcement about Tucker Carlson, that Tucker Carlson left Fox News. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, what is going on? What is happening in media? Listen to this announcement here. Shout out to Case Study QB, because before CNN made Tucker Carlson's announcement, Don Lemon's announcement, they made Tucker Carlson's announcement.
Just in to CNN. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. The right-wing network just announced the two have parted ways. CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy is here with more on this. What are you learning? He was out on Friday. Will we see him say goodbye?
We're not going to see him say goodbye. This is really stunning news coming from Fox. They say his last show was April 21st. They put out a very short statement. They said they thank him for his service, and that's it. That's all we know right now. But of course, this comes days after. Last week, you remember, Fox News settled this massive defamation lawsuit with Dominion Voting Systems over the election lies that it promoted in the wake of the 2020 election. So they paid out $787 million, the highest known defamation settlement ever publicly known in U.S. media. So this is coming days after that. Unclear, of course, whether this is related. It's kind of hard to imagine that these things happen. Tucker Carlson was sowing doubts about the U.S. election results just up until the last few weeks. So it's possible that there is a relationship there, but really big news. And I should also point out that they've stuck with them really through quite a lot. Like, he has promoted conspiracy theories about the vaccines. He has said things that are just blatantly anti-immigrant. He has, like I said, promoted doubts about the 2020 election. They have stuck with him throughout all of this. So, really shocking news that now he's no longer with the network.
Yeah, the big question, as you say, is why now? Fox has let their number one people go before. I mean, Bill O'Reilly, they pushed out when he was number one. They're doing this now with Tucker Carlson. We talk about this happening in the wake of the Dominion decision. Now, it's interesting with Carlson, which is that it wasn't his show or his shows that Dominion was suing over necessarily for promoting false news. It was some of his behind-the-scenes stuff that was legally problematic for Fox, but he wasn't one of the people who helped get them in trouble with Dominion, was he?
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, this is one of the things that happened as well. Just remember that Fox News just settled that lawsuit with Dominion. I think they paid them over $700 million. So just keep that in mind. But that's actually, based on the information I received today, that's actually not the reason why he left or was fired. I'm hearing all different things. Some people are saying fired. Some people are saying that he left on his own. Some people are saying they parted ways. But for him to not have a final show, it points more towards like he was fired in a sense.
The main culprit that really spawned this lawsuit. But, it's not to say also that other hosts could not be eventually leaving the network as well. I mean, this raises a lot of questions about whether the network potentially is trying to at least rein in some of the more extreme people on the channel. I mean, of course, Tucker Carlson, the most extreme probably on that channel. I should also note, John, why this is so important. I mean, Tucker Carlson, outside Donald Trump, really was the person commanding the GOP, really directing it. You saw Republican lawmakers, prominent Republican lawmakers, often grovel at his feet.
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, for instance, groveled at his feet, and others because they were afraid of him going on his primetime show and lashing out at them. So this is not only huge news in the world of media, but also in the world of politics, where he was really pushing the GOP in that extremist direction.
And it's also, just to that point, his show is also a place that a lot of Republican lawmakers or anyone who wanted to speak to Donald Trump would go in order to send their message, because they knew that Donald Trump would be watching and so closely tracking that show in and of itself. Do we know where he was in his contract? Are they going to be able to say that this was, end of his contract, they just wanted to try something different?
I'm not sure. I mean, I have been reaching out. I have also reached out to Tucker Carlson and everyone trying to get more information on this. But this is a very short statement. Also, notably, there's no statement from Tucker Carlson in here.
Right.
It doesn't seem, if I had to guess, that they parted ways amicably. Yep. We'll be obviously looking for more information in the hours.
Okay, so what I do want to say is that I'm assuming that at some point in time, Tucker Carlson is going to probably do an interview, a sit-down interview with someone, probably someone well-known, a prominent figure, explaining what happened, if he's allowed to. I don't know if he signed an NDA. Like, those are not uncommon in media, by the way. But if he signed an NDA, he may not be able to disclose everything that happened. That being said, there have been a number of speculations. And before I show you what was sent to me, Eric, I'm ready for that second screen whenever you are. Before I show you what was sent to me today and how this involves a billionaire, surprise, surprise, I want to show you some of the things that people pointed to that they said is probably the reason why he was removed. Let me see. Eric, do you have that second screen? Oh, here we go. So this came from Alex Rubenstein. He said Tucker Carlson, of all people at the Heritage Foundation of all places, denounces the DOJ for its prosecution of the African People's Socialist Party. Now, we talked about this a couple of days ago when he also had Glenn Greenwald on the show, and he talked about what happened with the Uhuru movement and how they were unjustly charged. Some people felt like maybe this was the reason. Listen to this.
The week I started at Policy Review, the Soviet Union collapsed, which was an amazing thing. The coup against Gorbachev in the third week of August 1991 was the week I started at Heritage. And in retrospect, of course, you never appreciate the significance of things as they happen to you. You can't really know what the movie's about until it ends. But at the time, we didn't really appreciate how, well, two things. One, our entire political orientation was based on this war between the United States and the Soviet Union, this Cold War, but very much a war. And every part of our politics, as you well remember, those of you my age and older remember, every part of our politics revolved around that central conflict. That's the first lesson of history. You know, nothing is permanent except our own demise and God. But we didn't kind of get that. You know, if you told me then that this week the Department of Justice would have indicted a group of people I don't agree with, by the way, on a lot of different issues, black nationalist socialists from Florida, okay, kind of not my demographic, but would have indicted them for criticizing the U.S. position, the Biden administration's position on the war in Ukraine, and charged them with felonies for which they're each facing 10 years in prison. If you told me that could happen here, I would have laughed at you. No, we have a First Amendment. That can't happen here, but it has, that and a lot of other things, which are gravely unsettling, actually, and people who were rooted in the Cold War story and the reality of the Cold War, again, my age, 53, kind of know where that goes.
Was that the reason? Or was there another reason? Some people are saying that maybe it had something to do with this statement that he made on this podcast called the Full Send podcast, where he criticized mainstream media. Could this have been the reason?
Like, I've spent my whole life in the media. My dad was in the media. Like, that is a big part of the revelation that's changed my life, is the media are part of the control apparatus. Like, there's no, yeah, I know. Cause you're younger and smarter and you're like, yeah. But what if you're me and you spent your whole life in that world, and to look around and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. Not only are they part of the problem, but I spent most of my life being part of the problem, defending the Iraq war. Like, I actually did that. Can you imagine if you did that?
Well, what do you think? What is one of your biggest regrets in your career?
Oh, defending the Iraq war.
That is it?
Well, I've had a million regrets, not being more skeptical, calling people names when I should have listened to what they were saying. Look, when someone makes a claim, there's only one question that's important at the very beginning, which is the claim true or not? So I say, you committed murder or you rigged the last election. Before you attack me as a crazy person for saying that, maybe you should explain whether you did it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for too long, I participated in the culture where I was like, anyone who thinks outside these pre-prescribed lanes is crazy, is a conspiracy theorist. And I just really regret that. I'm ashamed that I did that. And partly it was age, partly it was the world that I grew up in. So when you look at me and you're like, yeah, of course they're part of the means of control, I'm like, that's obvious to you because you're 28, but I just didn't see it at all. And I'm ashamed of that.
Isn't that what the media tries to do, though?
It's their only purpose.
Right.
They're not here to inform you, really. Even on the big things that really matter, like the economy and war and COVID and like things that really matter that will affect you. No, their job is not to inform you. They are working for the small group of people who actually run the world. They're their servants. They're their Praetorian Guard. And we should treat them with maximum contempt because they have earned it.
Was that the reason? The fact that he called out mainstream media and he's a part of the media? The fact that he said the media is working for a small group of people that control the world? Was that what did him in? Now, there's more, because you have to keep in mind that even though you may not like Tucker Carlson, he had the #1 show. It was the most watched show. Why would they get rid of someone who has the most watched show, right? Some people are speculating it had something to do with this conversation between AOC and Jen Psaki.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker...
Let me go back to the beginning. Could this be the reason?
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And That is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with. Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't.
Could it be that AOC had something to do with this? She's talking about federal regulations about what's allowed on air and what isn't. So this is what I had to say. Because when I heard this, I was like, really? I said, Tucker leaves Fox News. #1 news show in the country is done. Interesting. But this was even more interesting because I also noticed that right after that announcement, Fox stock started to crash. Look at this. Right after that announcement, you see that sharp drop right there? Right after that announcement. You know, apparently Tucker was more important to Fox than they may have realized. Anytime the stock just drops like that. And I know they made the comparison with Bill O'Reilly, but I don't know, man. Now, here's the information that came my way earlier today. Shout out to Kim for this. And then I found the article. Kim actually got a little bit more scoop. She said, make Trump a non-person. Rupert Murdoch declared Fox News was going all in on Ron DeSantis. Murdoch is a DeSantis mega donor. See, this is why I tell you to follow the money. Gave him a book deal and insisted the network pivot from Trump, which he admitted, given the viewers, wouldn't be easy. Is this why Tucker was fired? Now, this piece right here, Rupert Murdoch. So Rupert Murdoch, he is a media mogul. He's a billionaire. Hold that thought. Hold on to his name because we're going to show you something else in reference to him as well. But it sounds like to me that Fox this time around had decided we are going to push Ron DeSantis instead of Donald Trump. Now, does Tucker Carlson, is he necessarily a Trumper, so to speak? You might be surprised. Kim says Tucker wasn't a mega Trumper, but he was willing to expose the establishment's systemic attack on Trump and their disinformation campaign to keep Trump from the White House. By exposing them, Tucker sowed more doubt in our institutions than any other news broadcaster. That's probably one of the reasons why he was popular, by the way. By doing so, he helped Trump's campaign more effectively than any other outlet. With Tucker around calling out the lies, it would be harder to continue pulling the wool over American people's eyes. Our government and the elites despise us. They think they know better than us, and they're going to ensure an event like Trump winning never happens again. They're in charge, and by firing Tucker, they reminded us of this. Now remember, Rupert Murdoch is a billionaire. But here's a little bit more information. Carlson fired on Murdoch's orders. Report says as it happened. So it was Rupert Murdoch who wanted to get rid of Tucker Carlson. I'm just going to go straight to the point here. We don't have to go through this entire article. Most of it is a recap of what I just told you. So let's go on here. Many were surprised. Not that part. Yada, 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 yada. Where might Tucker go next? I don't want that part either. Where did it go? Sorry. I just want to make sure I'm going to the right part here. Lemon's ouster came, that's Don Lemon. Lemon's ouster came weeks after he apologized for a sexist remark about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley. She was clearly pleased by the anchor's dismissal. News of Carlson's departure was greeted with cheers by panelists on The View, a show that's been critical of him in the past. So Brian Stelter, you guys remember him? Remember, he was removed from CNN. That guy was ridiculous. Anyway, to be clear, Fox News did not know that CNN was terminating Don Lemon today, and CNN did not know that Fox was ousting Tucker Carlson. This was a complete and crazy coincidence. That's another thing that people were wondering as well. But this is the big one, guys. Ding, 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 ding. Carlson fired on Murdoch's orders over discrimination suit. Fox chairman Rupert Murdoch ordered Tucker Carlson's firing over a discrimination lawsuit filed by a former producer on his show. Murdoch was also concerned about Carlson's insistence that undercover government agents were involved in, you guys gonna read this part here, I can't say it on YouTube, an allegation that has no factual basis. In March, Abby Grossberg, a producer who formerly worked on Carlson's show, filed a suit saying that lawyers for the network coached and intimidated her into giving misleading testimony in the lawsuit filed by Dominion Voting Systems. She also alleged a culture of sexism and misogyny at the network, and that executives tried to blame her and host Maria Bartiromo for the airing of the 2020 election. You guys can read that there. So this woman here, Abby Grossberg, apparently she is claiming that she was forced to give misleading testimony, and also that there was a culture of sexism and misogyny at the network. Now, she wouldn't be the first to talk about the sexism and misogyny. Let's remember Megyn Kelly. Remember Megyn Kelly talked about this, about her experience when she worked at Fox News. There was a movie about this. There was a whole movie. I think Nicole Kidman was one of the characters, where they talked about some of the women reporters at Fox News and some of the behavior that they had experienced. So this wouldn't be the first time we've heard something like this. And I'm sure it's not just Fox News that it happens at. But it appears this is the big ding, 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 ding. Yes, thank you, Deneen. Bombshell, that's the name of the movie. Thank you. So she apparently filed the suit in March, and it's now April. So that was just last month. So it goes on to say, while the Times reports that the dismissal wasn't related to the Dominion lawsuit, it notes that comments made about managers at the network, which were revealed in the case's discovery process, may have also played a role in his ousting. So there you go. I'm sure there's more to this story. I'm sure, like I said, at some point, Tucker Carlson is going to sit down and give an exclusive interview with someone. Who that someone will be, I do not know. And maybe you'll hear more from him if you can. Like I said, it's not uncommon to sign an NDA in media. So we don't know how much he'll be able to tell. But the reality is this: Tucker Carlson had the #1 show. Whether you like him or not, a lot of people like to watch him, and it wasn't just conservatives. There were Democrats that watched Tucker Carlson as well. Some people watched him to hear the anti-war or the anti-Ukraine Russia war rhetoric, because he's not anti-war when it came to China. But what I will say is this: Tucker Carlson is probably going to get picked up somewhere else. I don't know for sure. I'm sure he could probably go on Rumble and get a Rumble exclusive show like Glenn Greenwald and Russell Brand and Kim Iverson have. He could do that. He could start his own podcast and just, it'll take off. It'll take off. He could start a podcast like Joe Rogan and it'll take off because people like to hear what he has to say. So, I mean, I think Tucker Carlson will be fine. Don't know about Don Lemon, though. Maybe Tucker and Don Lemon will team up and start their own show together. Maybe that could happen. I don't know. EJ says, so what has that lawsuit got to do with Tucker? It doesn't make any sense. I don't know, man. Maybe he's not the last person to go. Maybe they're cleaning house. But the point that I want to make is Rupert Murdoch. Let's remember, he is a billionaire. So even though Tucker Carlson had the #1 show, he was still working for a billionaire at the end of the day. Look up Rupert Murdoch. This guy was on a lot of stuff. Lots of stuff. So just, I don't know. What? JB goes, they can call it Tucker Lemon. You guys are funny. Casey, the Don Carlson show, the Tucker Lemon show, Tucking with Don. This is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Don can go to News Nation with ex BFF Chris Cuomo. He can. Yeah, he probably can go over there. Oh my gosh. A remake of The Odd Couple, the Oracle says. Oh, you guys are funny tonight. Red says it would be perfectly fine for Don Lemon to climb under a rock and never be heard from again. Oh man. Oh my God. This is hilarious. But yeah, both of those happened in the same day. And so a lot of us were just kind of like, what is going on in media? We'll talk more about that tonight on Call In. I was going to finish up Nevada tonight, but looking at the time, I'll have to do that on Thursday for Nevada Ballot Initiative. But we'll talk more about it tonight, because I want you to think about big media, what this means for big media, and what this can mean for independent media. Because let's be real, Fox ratings are going to drop. Can't say the same for CNN though. CNN's ratings probably are still declining anyway, because. But their ratings are going to drop. And what could this mean for independent media? A lot of you were watching tonight. I don't know what brought you over, but welcome. If you're new, subscribe, hit that like button.